mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery, where we talk about making a good mystery great. My name is Zara Altair, and today we want to talk about digging into dialogue in your story. So let's just get right to it. Dialogue moves your story. Dialogue is verbal action. When a character speaks, they are actively moving the story forward. And when the language, rhythm, and voice is clear for each character, your dialogue not only flows in your story, you minimize the need for dialogue tags. Dialogue may not feel as dramatic as a fight scene, but what characters say has the power to move the story forward, create immediate conflict, and stir the reader's curiosity to find out what happens next. How your characters speak reveals their personality. Especially in mysteries, characters reveal their character even when they try to hide it. The challenge for writers is to make the language each character uses appropriate to that character and distinct from other characters in the story. That way, readers understand who's talking. So, there's a few steps to getting dialogue really strong in your story, and one is to prepare for dialogue. And the best way is to know that particular character. So, in your character background, add dialogue segments to your character background. Like speech habits, repeatedly saying, okay, or turning statements into questions. Whatever little speech patterns that character has, make them distinctive and different from the other characters in your story. And also note their delivery style. Are they animated or deadpan? And for mystery suspects, add details about actions, either conscious or unconscious, they make while telling a lie. So there's a lot you can do with your character while they're speaking. And then research. You can learn a lot about how people talk by interviewing people who embody your character. For instance, someone who has the same profession, or someone you know who has a very distinctive style and you want to imitate that style for a particular character in your story. So a female biochemist and a male who breeds Bengal cats will have not just a different vocabulary, but their speech rhythms and favorite phrases. So I think it really helps to put all those details in your character background. So each time that character speaks, you have like the supply of dialogue ammunition that you can use to flavor that particular character's speech patterns. So you can listen to people in cafes or buses or trains or at the airport, in any public venue, an art opening. You don't have to visit a crack house to learn the language. You can watch characters in movies and television series and YouTube to grab dialogue details. Just listen to those speech patterns and how people present themselves through their voice, through their actions as they are speaking. I think another thing that helps is to cast your characters. Cast a real person, an actor, a friend, an acquaintance as your character, and listen to how that particular person uses their voice to speak. So borrow phrases and their intonation and body movement to create dialogue details for your character. So you capture those details to make each character speak in a unique way in your story. So you have a lot of ammunition. Well, once again, you have syntax and vocabulary and tone to help your reader understand who is speaking. And the more you individualize the speech, the better your reader understands that particular character. And then when you have dialogue in your story, there's no particular rule about when to use dialogue, action, and narrative. It's really up to the way you write your story. But you want to strike a balance between action, description, and dialogue. And you want to weave them all together to find your story's rhythm. And there are a few questions you can ask yourself about your story, especially in the rewrite stage, that can help you know which elements are most effective for a particular scene and which might be better used elsewhere when it comes to dialogue or action. So if the story is moving a little too slowly, you can speed things up, and a good way to do that is with dialogue. And is it time to give your reader some background information so the character feels more sympathetic? Use narrative and dialogue or a combination of the two to add that background information. Do I have too many dialogue scenes in a row? You want to intersperse them with some kind of narrative and action that keeps moving the story forward. Are my characters constantly confiding in others about things they should only be pondering in their minds? So definitely use narrative for this. You don't want them speaking out loud to the person who's nearest at hand all the time just to do some kind of explanation. Readers catch on to that pretty quickly, and it's really not the best use of dialogue. Okay, and then the opposite of that are my characters alone in their heads when they could be in conversation with somebody else. And this is a time when you definitely want to use dialogue. Is my story top-heavy in any way at all? So too much dialogue, too much narrative, or too much action? So you can balance these out and intersperse them within each scene so that none of those elements are missing. And then another question is, are my characters providing too many background details as they're talking to each other? And this feels really forced for readers, so take those explanations, details out of the dialogue, and use narrative to get those details in your story. Balance starts to flow more naturally the more you write, and that's why keep writing is more than just a phrase. Your skills grow as you practice, so just keep practicing. All right, once you've written your story and you want to troubleshoot your dialogue, here are some things that you can look at once you've written, to check for natural speech and moving the story forward, because you want both. One, say the dialogue out loud. Read it out loud. How does it sound? How does it sound as you read it? Are you stumbling over the phrasing? You may want to rephrase what they say if it's hard for you to get it out of your mouth, actually, because it's going to be hard for that character to get it out of their mouth, too. You always want to cut small talk like good morning, good afternoon, it's a lovely day, all that kind of thing. It just, what we might say in the real world doesn't work with dialogue in a story. Dialogue, remember, is verbal action. So you want to get that dialogue moving. And you want to keep your dialogue brief and impactful. You want to make sure that each character has a unique voice. And you want to, if you use slang at all, add world-appropriate slang. So make sure the slang that a character uses in their dialogue fits their personality, their social standing, all that sort of thing. And the other thing is, as you go along in your story, make sure that that character's voice is consistent. If that character speaks the same way on page 15 as they do on page 280. They have the same speech patterns and rhythms and vocabulary. Because sometimes it's easy to forget as you're working on your work where how your character was speaking at the beginning of the story. So you want to keep that consistent. And I think one of the ways you can do that is when you put all those details in the character background and you refer to them each time you write dialogue, it's easier to keep that voice consistent throughout your story. All right. Cut out greetings as much as possible, unless just cut out greetings as much as possible. I'll just leave it at that. And also, you want to make sure that the dialogue that you're using demonstrates that character's personality. Good dialogue stems from character, motivation, and feelings. And so you want all of those things embodied in your dialogue. The more you know your character, their goals, their feelings, and you get them to take the action of speaking to work toward their goal, your story is going to flow, your dialogue is going to flow. And once again, when you approach dialogue as action based on your character's current emotional state and goal, you'll find that it's a lot easier to write dialogue. I really like to think of dialogue as a particular form of action. In this case, it's the character speaking. And because each character has different and sometimes opposing goals and feelings, the words they speak will feel true to their character. So you'll avoid that flat dialogue. You'll enrich each scene and keep your reader wondering what will come next. All right, so actually what I had to say today is an excerpt from the course Write a Killer Mystery. And if you're struggling writing your mystery and feel like there are just all these blank spots and moving forward with writing your story, the course walks you through every stage of writing a mystery novel, from the story idea all the way to the end, and with hints like this about how to really approach dialogue so it sounds natural and flows in your character. All right. Thank you for being here. If you like this and found it helpful, please subscribe and click that little notification bell so you'll get notified the next time there's an episode of Write a Killer Mystery. In the meantime, keep writing.